Hi everyone! Are we live? Oh, here we go. Facebook is just doing something weird. But I think we're all good. 1 minute past 12 according to me. And here we go. That's a bit better. Right. Hello. Today I'm going to try and come in at 15 minutes, but as always I've got so much information I might have to rattle through this one a little bit. So this is a thanks to someone who asked in the group a couple of questions to do with spectacles and the reflection you can see, and also to do with reading scripts and notes while you are on camera. So where do I see my comments? Here. Hi Rosanna, lovely to see you. If you are here, please do say hello like Rosanna. And if you're watching on replay, please put hashtag replay. I would love to know what you get out of this, if anything. So let's start with, I'm actually going to start with the glasses thing, I think. Lots of people wear glasses, some for reading, some for, I don't know, all sorts of different things. These are my computer glasses. I'm just going to show you my normal glasses. Now these ones are okay, but because they're varifocal, I have to do that in order to read anything, which makes me look like an idiot. So it does, however, reduce the reflection. So I got myself some lovely computer glasses so that I can look straight at the screen without looking like an idiot, but I don't think they've got anti-reflective lenses, so I get this blue reflection all the time, which is super annoying. Now there's lots and lots of tips around not getting that reflection in your glasses, and I'm going to post some links after this video that you can go and check out, some YouTube tutorials. It's to do with lighting, folks, and so I am going to have to talk a little bit about lighting now as well. So the absolutely best light that you could ever have is the lighting that you see in a theatre, where you see spotlights. They're usually on either side of the stage, and they focus a beam into the middle onto the person centre stage. And obviously as the beam travels further, it gets wider. So by the time it hits the stage, because they're really high up, you get this lovely kind of wash of light on that person. Brilliant. I talk about natural light, I talk about sitting in front of a window, because you get a very sort of similar wash of light over you that's not too focused. If you're sitting with a light in front of you, that's the worst, or underneath you. Lights that are slightly higher than you are always best, and that is what ring lights mimic. They mimic this natural wash, and also in some senses the theatrical light that you get that surrounds you, not in the middle. But of course, the more lights you use, the more shadows you create, and the more you probably have reflections from your glasses. That's why I always advocate not using lights and using natural daylight. It is something that you do have to just kind of go around and experiment with. I'm going to see if I can turn on my ring light now. I've got a ring light here. This is what it looks like. The best way to position your ring light, I'm just going to see if you can tell the difference. If I can find my on switch. Where are you? There. So that's light off, light on. Oh, so not bad. Ideally you want it kind of behind your camera and really sort of slightly up. See, that's much better now. Woohoo! Mine's on a tripod, so I can actually adjust the height. But I don't often use it daytime because I think it just sort of complicates things. So unfortunately, you do sort of have to put up with this reflection. The only way to get rid of that reflection is to look down. So I'm just going to see if you can see, if I'm looking, there's the really bad reflection, then it disappears. Which is contraindicated by the fact that you should look up into your device. Well, I suppose, anyway, all I'm saying is, if you wear glasses, I hear you, those reflections are really annoying. But if you fiddle around with your lighting, then you should be able to eliminate it a bit. In fairness, I don't often bother because I just think it's one of those things I'm sure everyone can survive with a little bit of reflection. So that's to do with the lighting and the reflection on your glasses. So try not to look straight into a light source, and if you have got these reflections on your specs, just tilt your head down slightly. Another top tip is that if you are doing a video is to move your eyes and not your head. So once you've got your head nicely positioned in the center, then you can be looking elsewhere, but try not to move your head too much, because then you run into shadow and reflection. Okay, so hello to all my live people, welcome so much. Please pop me a hello in the comments so that I know that you're here. I think I've now got the ability to see my comments. Yes, I have. So the other tip about reflection and lighting is that the camera on your device is almost always really wide. It takes in a really a large amount of your surroundings, whereas if you use a webcam or something similar, then it's going to focus more on recording straight ahead. So if that's something that bothers you, play around with using a webcam. Obviously they're very cheap nowadays as well. I know I have one somewhere, but I can't actually remember where it is. I haven't used it for so long. But as you can see, this picture is quite wide, and if I had a webcam it would be much narrower, thus eliminating problems with shadow, reflection, lighting and so on. Right, let's talk a little bit about eyeline. Where do you look when you record your videos? Now, I used to be very, very strict about looking straight into the camera. I think it feels unnatural because at the same time that I'm looking into the camera, I can see myself on a screen down here. But because I am used to doing self-tape audition videos and filming and TV cameras, of course, for auditions we look straight into the camera. For filming and anything on TV, unless you're a presenter, if you're an actor, you never look at the camera. So you always look kind of slightly off camera, and the eye line has to be where the person is supposed to be. Now, many times when you're filming, there isn't a person there, or it may be a different person to the one you're actually speaking to. And they will often get a stand-in to stand there so that you have an eye line as if you're having a conversation with someone. So eye lines are really important, also quite complex on a film set. But the main thing is to either look into the camera or look at yourself on screen. I think we're now used to that. I think it doesn't feel weird anymore to watch people watching themselves on a screen. So it doesn't really matter. What I would say is pick one and stick to it. So if you're going to look into the camera, fine, keep looking into the camera, but try not to do too much looking around. I had a Shakespeare director once who was amazing, Michael Corbidge, and he used to say to the students, swimmy eyes, swimmy voice, or your voice goes where your eyes go. Which is true, because if I'm talking to someone over here, then my voice is going to go over here. And if which is fine on stage if that's what you want, but if you're all over the place with your eyes and then your voice is all over the place, it's difficult for us to focus and hear. And the other thing about that is that you want to have a conversation with a person on the other side of the camera. So I often tell people to imagine that behind the camera is sitting their best friend or their client or whoever it is they're talking to. And so it's like having a conversation, making eye contact, your voice following your eyes. And the other thing we do as human beings is that we look where other people look, right? I don't know if you've noticed this when you're watching theatre in particular, but if you have a character on stage, actually, you can watch people having a conversation in a cafe, or if you've ever walked down a high street and you've seen lots of people seemingly look at something, we all just naturally turn and look where everybody's looking. Which means that if you are not looking into the camera or straight at the screen, you're looking over here or down here, then the viewer wants to know, well, what's down here and what's over here? So we're following your eye line. So 2 reasons to stick to the screen or stick to the camera is that we follow your eye line and you are wanting to make eye contact with us through the screen. That's quite important. Now, what happens if you've got notes or a script? As you know, I'm a bit anti-script. So a script to me means bullet points. It's not actually a word for word what you have to say. As opposed to when I'm doing a self-tape audition, and many times I have to learn lines very quickly. There's a fast turnaround on auditions. And you can't always remember. And so actors will have post-it notes, or they'll set up the camera so that just off camera there's a piece of paper with your lines on them, and you can quickly, you can either make that piece of paper the person that you're speaking to, or you can quickly just glance and remind yourself of the next line. I think when it comes to online videos, when it comes to business videos, when it comes to doing training for your group or what have you, nobody minds if you look at notes. Again, it's something we're so used to nowadays, just in the last couple of years, because of all the online training. I've got my notes down here, actually down here, and I just glance over and little tick lists like, yes, I've covered that, I've covered that, I've covered that. It doesn't bother me at all if people do that. It really doesn't. If you wanted to, you could perhaps put your notebook right in front of you and glance down like that. Or, if you're really bothered, maybe have your notes by the side. If you can somehow stick them on a post-it note or stand them up. I mean, again, it takes a bit of fiddling around to see where you put your notes. But for me, I'm very happy that I'm talking to you, glancing at my notes, glancing back. Keyword, glancing. We don't want any reading. That is really boring to watch. So if I sat here all the time and went, right, yeah, so now we're going to talk about this, and then we're going to talk about that, and then we're going to talk about this. Really dull. You need to make that contact, you need to make the camera the focus of everything you're saying. Important for eyes and voice. So by all means, have notes. Don't worry too much about it, but make sure that you're glancing at your notes and not reading them. I think I did a little training video about this actually. If you look in the guides, you'll see there was, I think it was Prince Philip's funeral, when one of the archbishops, one of the many archbishops, read his entire sermon. And I just thought, really? You couldn't have just learnt a couple of lines? Because there's nothing more disconnecting than watching somebody read. It's a skill, it takes practice, but you can do it. I know you can. Okay, so the other thing about notes and scripts, and I've only got a couple of minutes left in this quickie mini training, is that there are things called teleprompters. Teleprompters are what newsreaders use. They don't have to learn their lines. They often do have notes with them, but when they're looking at a camera, on top of the camera screen are their words. And it's called a Telecaster, I think in America, or a teleprompter. And so it's a constant feed, if you can imagine like a conveyor belt of words, that they're reading whilst looking into the camera. That is quite a skill. However, there are now apps that you can use on your phone, on your laptop, that will do a similar thing. You can pop your notes there. They will roll over the screen as you're talking into the camera, and with a bit of practice you can make it look quite natural. I can still spot when someone's doing it, but then that's my job. So if you have a long video and you're worried about, or perhaps you have some kind of sales pitch or a message and you want to make sure you remember everything without glancing down, glancing up, or coming to a full stop, then maybe some kind of teleprompter is what you need. I am a little bit cautious about using them, but I'm going to post a link to one that I think is free, that you can use if you feel that you need that extra bit of reassurance and backup to remember your lines, as it were. Right, let me recap. Reflecting in your specs is all to do with the lighting, so you have to fiddle about with your lighting to make sure particularly it's not straight in front of you. Look, you can see now when I've lifted my head. Try and look slightly down, and the more lights you have, the more issues you have with shadows, so it becomes quite an art in the end. Me, I always go for natural light, but that does affect the reflectiveness of your glasses. When it comes to notes and bullet points and scripts, things you have to remember, I think it's perfectly natural to glance at your notes without reading them. But if you have a big issue with remembering words, then please try and use a teleprompter app, which may help you to feel more comfortable and more relaxed. Avoid learning lines. It's really hard work, and you end up, instead of being natural on your video, you end up looking like someone who's trying to remember their lines. More about this in another training, because I talk about it all the time. No learning lines. Apart from the structure, of course, your hello and your goodbye and your CTA. So I'm going to leave it there, folks. That's a super quick training. If you were here with me live, do say hello, even if it's just an emoji or a quick like. If you're here on replay, please put replay in the comments, and I would love to know what bit of this Top Tips Tuesday has resonated with you, and what are you going to do as a result of watching this video? What are you going to try out? Lighting, tilting your head down, putting your notes somewhere, a teleprompter. There'll be links underneath this video as soon as Facebook posts it for me. I hope you find it useful, and I will see you again next Tuesday for more top tips. So keep asking your questions, because I am here to help. Bye.